should have the money that you had last year, plus why you need 10 additional items to help improve your agency in 5 minutes. It's impossible. The good news for us in the Senate is the senator who is, heads the subcommittee on Article 8 agencies is Senator Robert Nichols. And you might remember Senator Nichols is the senator who carried the bill to abolish the plumbing board 4 years ago. And he had a change of heart and gave us a chance to fix it. And we have worked closely with Senator Nichols, letting him know the successes that we've had over the last 4 years. And he is really appreciative and was very impressed with what we did. So we had a friend on the chairing the Article 8 agencies. And as a result, we came out really well. They gave us 100% of our base, and Dan or Lisa, jump in if I make a mistake. I won't do this on the top of my head, but they gave us 100% of our base budget that we had spent the last 2 years without modification, which is just under $4 million per year that we spend. In addition to that, we had asked for 10 additional items totaling almost $3 million. It's a pretty big ask. But the strategy was, if you're ever going to make a big ask, do it on the heels of doing some pretty remarkable things that this agency has done in the last 2 years. When you've got a good story to tell. Just to give you a brief rundown, we asked for $675,000 for modifications and moving expense to move into the new facility. That was not included in the first round. We asked, let me just give you the bottom line. We got 7 new employees that were fully funded that are going to be available to hire 1st of September when this budget goes into effect. We got 2 new vehicles. We got $167,000 for IT improvements. We had asked to do an external audit, and they have decided not to give us the cash for it, but asked the state auditor's office to do an audit of our operations, which I think is a good practice for an agency to do that, to have some outside eyes take a look at it. We got $300,000 for expansion of our soon-to-be-built Harlingen Testing Center, as well as a mobile testing center. The bottom line, we ended up with $2.1 million additional funds. And I'm gonna tell you, you don't do much better than that. When you go from 4 million and you get a 40% increase in your budget, you can't do that much better, in my opinion. The disappointment we had also asked for about $650,000 to be utilized for employee raises. We didn't get that, not a penny of it, and nor did any other agency, nor did the legislature pass a bill like they did the last session, giving across-the-board increases to employees. And that was disappointing, not just for our agency, but for the state employees as a whole. The good news is Dan and Lisa and I, because we did so well in getting new employees, we are authorized to hire 7 new employees as of September the 1st. Now, we're not going to do that because part of those employees are examiners for the Harlingen Center, which may be 8-10 months down the road. So the money that we do not spend, that we're authorized to spend, and Lisa and Dan and I have looked at this, is going to go into a pool. It's called lapsed money that we're authorized to spend that we're not. So we will use that pool of money for those unhired employees into a pool for our employee raises. So we'll get there, we'll just get there a different way. But that was a little bit disappointing that we didn't get that. The other good thing that's tremendous is, as you know, our lease expires August 31st of this year. And we've got a vacant building sitting over here that needs new restrooms. We need to set it up for our testing center. We've got to get all of our employees moved, all the technology transferred over. And our budget, next to biennium budget, doesn't go into effect until September 1st. That's when we get the new money. The good news is, the reason they didn't put that $675,000 in the regular budget is because we'd have it September 1st. They put it in a supplemental budget. That's good news, because now we can access that, and Dan's figuring out how to do it. We can access that money now. We don't have to wait until the budget cycle gets around. Good news, bad news. Bad news is that got put in the budget on the last day of the legislative session. Lisa and I have been on pins and needles for 6 months. Because I'm gonna say, I have to tell you, we would have been in trouble. And I'll tell you a little bit about the building and what's going on. While all the legislative session is going on, we're trying to push the Facilities Commission to get in gear, because we've got to move. We're packing up boxes right now. And they're still got a whole warehouse full of insurance commission or fire marshal commission surplus equipment. And when I mean full, I mean, when you see it, it's got these huge industrial shelves. It was packed. I mean, absolutely packed with surplus equipment. You could hardly walk around in there. It had so much. And I'm talking 18,000 foot warehouse. The Facilities Commission took the position, well, it's their building. They're the ones that have got it leased. We don't have the authority to move that stuff out of there. It's their stuff. So while the session's going on, I set up a meeting with Cassie Brown, who's the insurance commissioner in Texas. And I impressed upon her the importance of her getting her butt in gear and getting that stuff out of there for us, because we had a lease expiring August 31st. And they were talking about, well, we'll be out by August 31st. And I said, well, that ain't good enough. I said, that we can't do that. So to her credit, Cassie Brown was very gracious. She understood what we were talking about. And I would say within a matter of 2 weeks, crews started moving that stuff out of there and vacated it. And they have, with the exception of one employee that still offices there, they have 2 employees. They have totally vacated the building, and it's ready for occupancy. The other thing that we were pushing them is, you can't just snap your fingers and put in a new bank of restrooms and all the electrical drops and air handling device. I mean, you can't just drop a hat and do that. So we've been pushing them to get going. And in retrospect, we got really frustrated with some of the staff at the Facilities Commission because of their lack of doing anything. But in retrospect and looking back at it, I understand their position. We're an agency that's asking them to spend some money and get busy kicking people out, and we didn't even have the money to move. I mean, so we were asking them to do something that was beyond the authority they had to do. And when I look back, and I was really frustrated at them, and so was Lisa, and she and I cried on each other's shoulders more than once of the lack of activity. I kind of get it, where they were coming from. They didn't have the authority to do that. So Lisa and I set up an appointment to go see the governor's office. And we went over and visited with the budget director for the governor's office and expressed to them our dilemma that we had to get something going, even if we don't have the money yet. We can't wait till we get the money to get going, because it's not going to happen. At any rate, our representative, our liaisons with the governor's office set up a meeting with their budget director, and Lisa and I went over and had a meeting with him. He made a courtesy call to the Facilities Commission and to their high level deputy executive director, and explained our dilemma and our situation. Then Lisa and I went and met with the deputy executive director, along with all these other people we've been dealing with. And hearing all the problems, he laid out a piece of paper and he said, okay, well, this is what we're gonna do. And it fit our time schedule. So he had already worked it out. And from that point on, I have to say that our cooperation and the people that we've been dealing with have been much better to deal with, and I think we're moving now. We had to, really odd dealing agency to agency. The only agency I've ever dealt with is TSTC, and that's just been with a handshake and just a gentleman's agreement, I would have to say. Facilities Commission, they had needed a $20,000 down payment before they would do anything. So Lisa has scrimped and saved, and Dan has worked on trying to figure out a way that we can pull $20,000 out of our this year's budget to give the Facilities Commission for them to get out of the blocks, which Dan and Lisa did that. So, that's a lot of talk to tell you that we have our money. We had a wonderful appropriation. It's the best in the history of the agency. We've got 7 new employees. We've got a new testing center in Harlingen planned. We're still on track with a mobile testing unit at some point, and we got the funds to do it. And I will say this, that we've got the funds and we've got the plans, and if we execute them, and we have a new testing facility here in Austin, which is gonna be an additional 4 testing stations. That'll get us up to what, 16? 16 at a time, rather than 12. We've got Waco, that is as large as they have here. We'll have Harlingen, that'll be a carbon copy of Waco Testing Center. We have the money for the staff to man it. I believe the infrastructure, I'm gonna say, I think the infrastructure is in place for the plumbing board for the next 10 to 15 years. I think that we can handle the capacity.
And your mobile testing.
And the mobile testing. So I think we have the infrastructure in place and a plan in place, and it's just a matter of executing it. I believe that we have a 10 to 15 year taking care of the testing situation, which is what got us in this mess to start with.
How many will the mobile testing unit do?
Not many, maybe 5
Okay.
per round, 4 or 5, something like that, when you say,
Yeah, and maybe being able to rotate in to get 7.
yeah. Bring them in at different times or
Kind of
something.
plan, yeah.
So really, the one that we can push the volume through are Austin, Waco, and soon to be Harlingen. And I can see is gonna be a tremendous help in our high school and trade school programs, where we can just take it on graduation day or a week after graduation, set it up in the school parking lot and test the students right there once they've got the grades. So anyway, that's a 10-year window of where I see the plumbing board going, and I think we have the funds, I think we have the personnel, and I think we've got the talent to do it. So it's just a matter of executing now. The other thing that I will mention, as we make this move in the next 3 months, it's gonna appear, and it's probably accurate, it's gonna be pretty chaotic at the plumbing board. We've been here at this location for 40 years. But to remind everybody why we're moving, we pay $30,000 a month rent. We don't own this building. We pay $30,000 of month rent, which in my opinion, and I think the board's opinion, is ridiculous. So we made a decision a year or 2 ago to enter into a 2-year lease, which expires on August 31st. And as of September, our rent is gonna go from $30,000 a month to 0. And that's important because it's in a state-owned building. And part of our goal is to keep the cost of a license down. We are required to cover all the money that we spend. We are required to cover it. And roughly 80% of our money that we bring in is from licensing fees. And if we're gonna keep our licensing fees at a reasonable level, we've got to keep our cost at a reasonable level. And eliminating $360,000 a year rent is gonna go a long way in accomplishing that goal. So I think everything that we've done from a board stamp, the decisions that the board made a year or two ago when we, made the decision to move out, and our legislative session and our deal with TSTC, I think that we have in place the infrastructure to carry the plumbing board forward for a long time to come. I really do. A lot to be done. And I make it sound easy, and it ain't easy. But we are gonna be out of here, and Lisa and I talked about this yesterday. We may have to, everybody load up their truck in August, but we're gonna be out of here on August 31st. We will not be up and operational by August 31st at the new facility. That's gonna take some time. Putting all these testing stations in place and connecting all the air and the electricity is not just gonna happen overnight. Something else that Lisa did that I think is really, really smart, we started looking for someone to move us. And we got a couple of bids, I think, from outside private sector people. You know, they wanted $160,000 to move this building, $160,000 to move all this stuff over to the new building. That's crazy. At any rate, Lisa has remembered and has contacted and made arrangements with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, who has a crew that does just that, is they move people. And so they're gonna give us for $1,000 a day, we're gonna get the truck, a supervisor, and 4 workers. And we're gonna move everything we've got using that, and I think we can do it for less than $100,000 all total, all in. So we got a plan in place, but I wanna warn the industry and I warn the board, it's gonna be a little chaotic the next few months. Once we start moving, we will stop all testing here in Austin, either the latter part of July or the 1st of August. And we're still arguing about it when we're gonna start up at the new testing center. As you might imagine, I'm a little more optimistic than the people that are actually doing the work.
I'm realistic, sir.
Oh, yeah, I'm a little more, I don't know about that. I think we have a different perspective, and at any rate,
Good thing we have Waco.
it is a good thing we have Waco. Which brings up another point that I think is pretty, I'm pretty excited about. Lisa and I have talked about this, and I don't know if you spilled beans to the examiners yet. But one of the things that has always puzzled me or troubled me is that we've got this testing facility here, and people come in at 8 o'clock and they're out of here by 2 o'clock. Why can we not bring in another crew at 2 o'clock and let them get out of there at 8 o'clock? And so we might have an opportunity to test that at Waco when we're not testing here. We're gonna move an examiner or 2 up to Waco to help supplement that. And they'll keep testing their regular schedule, but why not? Let's start a second crew coming in at 2 o'clock and finishing in the evening finish. So whether it'll work or not, I don't know. I don't know why it would not work. It's like a manufacturing plant. You've got all this capital investment out there and all this equipment just sitting idle, and the only thing missing are the people. So if we can get the people to staff a second shift, there's no reason we can't put it on a 2 shift. And if that's successful, I've been talking about a 10 or 15-year plan. Think of the capacity that we will have between Waco, Austin, and Harlingen if we did a 2-shift operation. When we go back to the legislature, we don't need any more capital improvements or expansion. What we need is the personnel to put on a second shift. So all of this is about service to the industry. We cannot have plumbers, journeymen, masters, and tradesmen waiting in line to go to work to take an exam. So we're trying to get out ahead of that. So anyway, I think in my mind, maybe not in everybody's mind, but in my mind, we are set for the next 10 or 15 years if we manage it properly and if we execute our plan as we have it. What did I miss? Lisa or Dan,
Waco's gonna be full for a while. That's the goal,
you know,
That
the
should
one,
make TSTC happy,
probably.
that you're using the facility.
but we've been using,
I know, but I'm just saying you're really using it.
Oh, yeah.
you know, one other thing that I mentioned, and I haven't talked to Lynn or Lisa where we are on this, but for the last 2 years, we've been operating, Waco Center that's owned by TSTC based upon a handshake between Mike Reeser and I. And we have formally are entering into a contract with them for that facility. Because I know I'm not gonna be here forever, and neither will Mike Reeser, but this contract will be in place for continuity's sake in the event of a change in personnel. And it'll also serve as a template when we do Harlingen. We can do the same thing for Harlingen that we did for Temple, so, or excuse me, for Waco. But you're right, it's gonna be busy times in Waco for sure. And boy, am I glad we got it, because we would really be backed up.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanna mention, and if there's anyone listening to the podcast and you're thinking about taking an exam, get it down. One of the issues that we've got is right here in Austin, people are booking out 3-4 months out. And we've got Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays that are open within the month. But everybody wants to come on a Monday or come on a Friday. And we are wasting some space because we can't get people to take those midweek days. So if you're one of those people, quit your bitching, because I'm gonna tell you, I'm warning you right now, it's about to really be tough to get in to see us in the next few months. Because we're gonna have the Austin Center down while we're moving, and we'll only be going to Waco. So if you're wanting to take an exam and you need to take an exam to get your license or to move up within your organization, double check to see if there are any midday weeks that are available. If you don't take them, it's on you, it's not on us, because we've still got openings. I was here the other day and we had like 4 people or 6 people here, and we had 4 people that either didn't show up or didn't schedule. So what else, Lisa or Dan, having to do with appropriations or our move?
Well, I got a laundry list, but, one, I'm talking about the exams in Waco is, once they get the email and it says you can select your practical exam, they need to grab it as fast as they can. But, July's got quite a bit of openings right now. And if you can't get the 1st of July, it's because you're trying to get it by, on the 30th. You gotta have 7 days out. So you see a date that's 7 days from whenever you're logging in.
Grab it.
Grab it.
Yeah. We would love to get as many, we'd like to be at 100% capacity between now and the time that we have to shut down our Austin office to make the move. And try to get as many in as we can, and it's a waste for those time slots on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to be left unfilled.
The demand is Monday and Friday.
Yeah. Everybody makes a long weekend or
Yeah.
so anyway, that's kind of an overview of where we are on our appropriations. I couldn't be more pleased. And I will say this from a legislative standpoint, it's not because of me. And it's not because of the legislature, it's because the agency actually delivered and we had a story to tell. You can't get over there and bullshit your way through things. You really have to have some statistics and some numbers to show that you have done exactly what we said we were gonna do, and we've done it. We had one document, maybe you have seen it by now, in 2022, we did 4,900 exams. 2024, we did 10,600 exams. Now, I'm gonna tell you, that's miraculous in anybody's book. Now, those of us who have been following it real close know that that was a combination of adding Waco and Lisa working to get that, written exam outsourced to a private sector. But that's remarkable. And legislators are wowed by that. And they feel comfortable giving us what we're asking for because they know we deliver. So we laid out a plan of why we needed this extra money. And, based upon our track record, they believed us and they gave it to us. So it's not a time to sit back because we've got to really step up to the plate and deliver. And we got to have all the confidence in the world we can do. We got the people in place. We got the expertise. If there's one thing that we need to do that we have struggled with for 2 years, as long as I've been here, and that's hiring enough good folks. That is just like your businesses, the biggest problem you got, you can build the buildings and you can buy the equipment. But the most difficult part of your job is finding good qualified people to do the job. And that's something that we've struggled with for as long as I've been here, so. Any other comments or questions about our appropriations or about our move? I'm sure Lisa will get a little bit more into the move when she gives her report a little later, but. Any questions so far? No. Okay, that concludes my remarks. Lynn, would you help us on legislative update? If there was more happening, other than our appropriations. And I don't think anything bad happened. So Lynn, won't you kind of go through those bills that were passed and.
I will. It's not a long list. Again, Lynn Latone, General Counsel, this is item number 6, legislative update. As Frank said earlier, the session ended on June 2nd, and bills that passed were sent to the governor. The governor has the opportunity to sign or veto any pending bills until June 22nd, so we still were kind of a bit in flux. I provide this update with caveat that 2 of these bills aren't law yet. We're waiting to see what's going to happen by June 22nd. That said, Senate Bill 1080 was passed and is law at this time. Senate Bill 1080 established a specific pathway for incarcerated individuals and parolees to obtain provisional occupational licenses. The bill aims to not bar trained applicants from employment opportunities if their past offenses are not relevant to their intended profession. House Bill 3214, which has not been signed by the governor yet, reduces the required time a plumber must hold a journeyman license from 4 years to 2 years to qualify to sit for the master's exam. Again, this amends 1301-002 subsection 5 of our statute, and we're going to wait to see what happens by June 22nd on this. Lastly, House Bill 5629, which has also not been signed by the governor, allows for the expedited licensing for service members, veterans, and spouses with professional licenses in good standing in other jurisdictions. Ultimately, it's an expedited path to professional licensure for those individuals should they want to come practice in Texas. And other than that, the bills that we talked about at our last meeting, nothing else passed.
The one in particular that comes to mind is there was a bill that was filed that never got out of the box that would have made IPC the code for Texas and eliminated any other code. I will tell you, that's the second or third time that it was filed, 4 times that it was filed. This time it never got a committee hearing, so we are the same as we were in the past, having to do with code requirements. There on your agenda that will come up a little later on, we are addressing, even that the governor has not signed the bill, which reduces the length of time you have to be employed as a journeyman from 4 to 2 years. The effective date, if that bill is signed, is September the 1st. And I have spoken with the governor's office and told them that we were going to go ahead, and even if the governor has not yet signed it, it has not become law, that we were going to go ahead and put before the board a rule which would be implemented on September 1st, if and when the governor allows that to become law. I want to be real careful that we're not trying to get out ahead of the governor, because he still can veto it, he can leave it alone, or he can sign it, one or the other. You know, obviously that's up to him, but, we don't, the problem that we're looking at, if we don't put it on our agenda today, and the bill goes into effect on September the 1st, our next board meeting is probably gonna be late August, September sometime. And then once we vote to adopt or we vote in favor of the rule, it's got to be sent to the governor's office, it's gotta be filed with the Texas Register, which is a 30 to 45 to 50-day process. So we don't wanna be in November or December implementing a bill that's so important to the industry. So we're gonna go ahead and, ask your consideration for passage of this rule, with the understanding that Lynn will hold that until such time as the governor signs it or allows it to go into law. If he vetoes the bill, which I don't think he will, but I don't know. If he vetoes the bill, then it goes in the trash. Anyway, we'll get to that in just a minute. Well, I just covered number 7, didn't I? Okay,
Here. That was the next thing.
okay,
And again, can I come in on that?
sure.
Since we're on item number 7. And again, this is the discussion and possible action to amend the rule at 22 Texas Administrative Code 363.4 to comply with the possible statutory changes mandated in House Bill 3214 of the 89th regular session by reducing the experience requirement to test for a master's license to 2 years. Again, as Frank has explained, House Bill 3214 reduces the experience qualification standard to test for a master's license from 4 years as a journeyman to 2. And what we're looking for is a motion to post in the Texas Register for 30 days of public comment this amendment in the rule should the governor's, should House Bill 3214 become law.
Mr. Chair, this is Justin. I'd like to, sorry,
yes,
Mr. Chair,
yes, sir.
I was just gonna make a motion if that's appropriate at this time.
Yeah, before we do that, I want to make a comment about this bill. It really doesn't make any difference, whether we like it or dislike it. The legislature has passed it. But I, for one, am not concerned about it because, and I was asked by a legislator, the safety net is the exam itself. So whether you've been there for 2 years or whether you've been there for 20 years, you still got to pass that master exam. And that is no walk in the park. And when we get to our exams, statistics, you'll see that the pass rate on a master exam is 51%. So 49% of the people don't pass it. So I think there is a safety net. Also, it's significant to note that this has no effect whatsoever on the DOL apprenticeship training program. Those are still alive and well, and that sequence is still in place, just as it was before. It doesn't touch the DOL training program. Both with the labor unions as well as PHCC, and I think there are others, DOL programs. So it has no effect on them. But we do anticipate, we've got some like, my number may be wrong, but about 24,000 journeymen. And there is a large percentage of those 24,000 journeymen that if they chose to do so, have been journeymen for 2 years. I don't, have you done the numbers on that? You know, I
We found
mean,
22 that were, or 2,200.
that were already eligible if they choose to. So we'll see, but
I think it's important to note, years ago, when I got my master license, it was a 2-year wait, so we're basically returning to what we had in the past, and Darren, what you said, 1
1
year?
year.
So,
and I've heard that from others, that sometimes you could be a journeyman for a year and take your master exam.
Yep.
And I, you know what, there are some people that are journeymen for 25 years and they still don't have any damn business being a master. and they couldn't pass the test if they tried. But with that being said, the test is the safety net. It's over 300 questions.
Totally agree.
It's, and if they don't know their business, they're not gonna pass the
Well,
test.
this whole thing's a formality because the legislature told us what we were going to do. So I think I heard Justin's motion and I second it.
Actually, can I get Justin to say the motion?
Whatever.
Justin,
Or
Let
can we
me,
have a
let
motion?
me get that back in front of me real quick. If y'all could still hear me. I would move to publish the proposed amendment in the Texas Register as presented for 30 days of public comment.
Should House
And-
Bill 3214 become law by the 22nd?
Sure, if
You hear
that's, I mean, we can still publish it one way or the other and not adopt it later, but yeah, we can add that caveat.
but the motion is not to even publish it until the governor either signs it or allows it to become law.
Yes, that was
Is
my
that
intent.
correct? Okay,
And I still second it.
okay, motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item number 8, and this is a discussion item only. For, I don't know how long it's been going on, but a long time, that when one becomes a master plumber from a journeyman plumber, they keep that journeyman plumber license. And I guess we actually issue a card too, do we not?
I have both.
And that's fine. But they don't pay for it. And I'm not for doing away with that. But I am gonna ask for discussion, why would they not pay for a license that they're holding?
Well, I would suggest that they are paying for both licenses after they've become a master. You know, it may not be a separate bill, but I'm gonna suggest that they're paying for both of them when they pass them.
And another way to look at it is reason I hold 2 licenses, that's 2 licenses that we can show the legislature, so why would a guy pay for both?
Well, I guess my point is, I don't have any objection to holding both licenses. I think they should be able to do that. And there's no way that I would take it away from them. But it's $40 for a license, and the staff has to still issue the license and go through the documentation. Why would you not pay for the masters? And if you want to keep the journeyman, pay the $40 and keep your journeyman. If you don't want the journeyman, doesn't ever want it, don't do anything, there's no change. That to me, I don't know how that came about.
Well, again, it was numbers, to get numbers. I wanted, am I not right? Or no, you don't wanna comment?
Out of your 12,000 licensed
Or
master,
tell us why?
Okay,
how many
Well-
of those paying a journeyman, as part of our 24,000 journeymen?
during one of the changes in 1992, that's how far back it happened. In our system, that is when everyone had an opportunity to keep both. Those that chose not to keep both or weren't notified in time ended up with just one license, just the master. But as we progressed along, then, and numbers became an important issue, cost became an issue, we said, okay, let's let them keep both, and they paid for them for a very long time, for both licenses,
2 fees, one for the master, one
for
for
a
the
very
journeyman,
long time.
which is what I'm suggesting. we do.
Correct. And we stopped doing the double fee because at the time, one of the times during in about 11, it was just an enormous amount of money too. And we didn't want to raise fees and we wanted to stay down lower. We were a cash cow at the time. We were covering what we were appropriated, and so we cut that back out again. And it does make your numbers look good, Ron.
Well, and one time we were paying $375 or something for a master license.
Yeah, and,
So-
and the master license fee also changed for the master, so it only went down to 75. So it was kind of an offset to do it, but the process, which Mr. Denton brought up, we still have to click on the buttons, print the card, send it all out. And as we're moving forward, recovering that amount of money is gonna be a little bit more important this go around because we've got such a high appropriation now too.
That was a point I'm trying, we are struggling.
Yeah.
Even by saving the rent money, by expanding our operations, we're spending more money.
Okay.
And we had to bring in more money. And the other point I wanna make is, and Ron brought it up, we cut master license fee 4 or 5 years ago by $100 a year, which cost this agency $1 million when we cut that fee. But we never implemented we never brought back the journeyman fee, which is $40. So I asked the board's discussion or, yeah,
I would be more.
and I'm not just gonna talk to the board, and the reason I'm bringing it up in public as a discussion item, I'm sure when Lisa goes to the PHCC meeting or you back to your union meetings, we'll get some feedback from the industry for sure, but I don't think it's an unreasonable thing to ask myself. But
I guess my approach, Ron, which may aggravate all the masters, is just to go raise the price of the masters and appropriate amounts rather than go and try to split this stuff up.
you know, I disagree with that because I would like, if we possibly can, not to increase fees, period. I would love, whether it be a master or a tradesman or anybody else, but in order to do that, every license we issue needs to be paid for.
Well, you're increasing the fees, whether you're saying and you're increasing the fees by doing that in my world, but.
Well, in your world, you don't have to be an adjournment, then don't pay it, and it didn't increase your fee.
Okay, and then maybe you could split the baby in that, we find out with a journeyman license, what does it cost the agency to click on the button, the time, print the card and all that, and let's just say that's $15. I mean, and I'm picking a number out of the air. Increase the master by $15 and then we keep both.
Well,
I would agree with Ron.
I mean,
I think that makes the most sense.
go
I
ahead.
said, I agree with Ron. I think, it obviously doesn't cost us the full $40 to click, print, run the card and mail it out. So, if we're covering costs, yeah, absolutely, we should do that. But yeah, if that number's $5, $10 or $15, maybe that's, we create another, fee category that says, journeyman with a master, and that's another, $15 a year.
So would you
so
increase
that
the
we
fee on the
cover that
master,
cost.
even if they don't retain their journeyman license?
No, I'm saying create a separate fee category for a master who wants to have a journeyman, retain his journeyman license as well.
Well, if
Um,
you
and
do
you
this,
create
then
basically an add-on, treat it just like we would an endorsement or a registration type item where it's just an add-on fee versus the full, journeyman fee. But I think, that brings up a second question, which is if we're short on revenue, we probably need to look at our entire fee structure rather than just this one segment.
I don't disagree with that, but I believe there are some unknown factors, and as these high school and trade school programs come on, I think that we're gonna have an additional revenue stream of maybe 2,000 to 3,000 more tradesmen or licensees that we have not seen in the past. As these schools come in, so I would like to get a better feel for that number before we start messing with fees. So we have been talking for a year or two to take a look at our fee structure. But a fee increase is not necessary as long as your organization and the body of people are growing. It's a volume thing. And I think as successful as we've been on the high school program, we've yet to see yeah, they have. This year, the first year, some of them are gonna be coming on.
If I could bring one other point in there. So part of the bill that was passed for the appropriations for the 675 that we received distinctly states that we cannot raise fees to accommodate that.
That's right, and let me tell you why that is. that is not a reoccurring expense. That's a one-time expense that was given to us.
Okay.
And it was given to us out of general appropriations. It was not, it's not a part of our budget, and that's why it was supplemental and set apart. It came from general revenue, and it's a one-time expense. So that does not have to be included in the amount that we have to
Yes,
cover.
sir, I just wanna make sure that
That's
that's.
good point.
Good point, it is.
Can the dumb engineer in the room ask the question of what, would you keep your journeyman if you had a master's, if you had to pay more money for it?
Just probably out of myself, I only speaking for me, out of a sense of pride, I would.
Okay.
Derek?
Same here.
I would,
mean,
I keep both as well.
But on a different note, Dave, I would also pay $1,000 a year to keep my master's, if that's what.
I think our master fees are terribly reasonable. They ought to be higher. If you're gonna run a business, you can afford another $100 a year.
Lisa, do you have something to say?
Yes, sir. Eventually, we will be moving to an electronic license. So there'll be a
Boy,
choice.
you are kicking the beehive, aren't you?
I just want everybody to understand is okay, let me back up. If we're gonna do this, this is the simplistic way to do it when it comes to the computer system, the processing of the applications, the testing through the comptroller. There's all these parts that have to work. We don't have to make a big computer change into our application system, hence I don't have to spend money on that. The cost of the cards do keep going up a little bit, so as we move further down the road and we look at the electronic license, then you'll have the electronic license on your phone, and at that point, you're gonna choose whether you even want the plastic card. So there's all these things that we've got to balance and look at as we move along. So to put this, does it cost you, if you add in the cost of the employee doing it and all these different things, it's relatively expensive. But this is a quick way to settle the matter and see where we're at, and then as our volume ramps up, we may go back and say, geez, we're the
We got
gracious,
the money, yeah.
we're the gracious plumbing board, and you can buy one, get one free.
Yeah, our overall goal is to reduce or keep our fees low. But in order to do that, I think everybody needs to pay for a license. But again, this is only a discussion item today. And I have heard from the board, you're not I think I'm hearing, you're not necessarily opposed to them paying for it. The question is, do you do it by adding to the master fee, or do you?
And the reason I kind of like what he said about the master fee is, again, once you get a master's license, you know, you kind of hit the pinnacle here. And you ought to have a lot of pride, and paying another small fee on top of an annual deal, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
Some people actually have every card that's ever been issued to them, and that, they like that, and that's fine.
It is fine. I'm not disparaging the practice of doing it.
I
I'm
don't
just saying
blame
it
them.
from
They
our
worked hard to
standpoint.
get those cards.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I could also add, so several years ago, when we did that, and we lowered those fees, we gained that $1 million back. Part of that was due to the endorsements as well. So I think the argument we're gonna hear back from a lot of the plumbers is, if we're gonna charge for that, doesn't it cost the same for us to do the med gas, the water supply protection specialist, all the endorsements? Somebody's still having to administer and take care of, and that there's a cost involved with that we waived.
We took the fees off of the endorsements, close to the same time, because that was one of the ways that we could lower fees without lowering a fee. And so collectively, all of those endorsement fees that you were paying separate, there again, it was about leveling as we went along. So everybody that has an endorsement, they're not paying that additional fee anyway.
Right.
So, and they're getting all of it. So to put the $40 back, that's still cheaper
But
to
an
get all
endorsement
their,
is not a license fee.
right.
There's
there-
a huge difference in
Yeah.
an endorsement
Exactly.
and a license fee.
It, at one time, it was separate though. If you had
I know
three
it was, yeah.
endorsements, you were paying for all three of them and all those cars.
This board approved,
Yeah,
doing away with it. So
I
at
still
any,
support
any rate, it's out there. And I'm anxious to get feedback from the industry. I feel sure that we'll get some from individuals as well as organizations. And I'll put it back on an agenda at our next meeting and we'll. I'm not anticipating doing this till the first of the year anyway. So we may have two meetings that we can kick around ideas and come up with.
and bear in mind, the simple way to do it is just to say, yes, put a fee or put the fee that was already on there. Back on there. That's the simple way to make the computer system understand, the plumbers understand. I mean, nothing's, you know,
So the easiest way for the agency is just make them pay the $40.
add
for
it back
the
in
license.
exactly like it was, yeah.
Okay.
So I don't wanna spend money on modifications.
Yeah, and you
So
see
do
what
it.
Lisa's saying, she's got a lot of computer work to do, if
Yeah.
we started adjusting that master fee upward, so.
Or doing two together, and if you have one of these, you get one of those, and it's not, I mean, it's a great system, but it's not that.
Okay, well, everyone keep that in mind, and as you're talking to industry people, bounce it off of them, tell them something we're looking at, maybe at the first of the year. If the board, if we can reach a consensus on the best way to do it, if to do it at all, so. Just a discussion item today. Let me, give you a little background on item number 9. Is discussion on the increase in a mandatory penalties assessed against responsible master plumbers that's not really right. It's not responsible, it's employers that employ unlicensed workers to engage in plumbing and the enforcement division's authority to settle those violations. In tab 3, you've got our penalty matrix. And I think that you will see that, and I think it's highlighted in mine, it may be on yours. It is. That it, for employing unlicensed or unregistered person is a $4,000 fee. The practice, and I'm not against this practice on most violations. If someone is charged a fee for a violation, the enforcement division, in order to expedite the settlement of it, and if the respondent is cooperative and wants to try to resolve it short of a hearing, they will reduce those fees. And sometimes drastically, 50%, 75%, just depending on the nature of the violation, the level of cooperation they get out of the respondent. I don't think that we should do that on something as basic as making sure your employees have a registration or a license. It's not there's no master, no journeyman, no one holding a license in Texas that doesn't know that in order to do plumbing work, you have to have a registration or a license. Period. Now, that's not ambiguous. It's not hard to figure out. And everybody in this industry knows it. And my suggestion to be a further deterrent is that we come up with a mandatory penalty that is non-negotiable and fixed, and it remove the ability of the enforcement division to reduce that fee when it comes to the agency. So and the reason I changed responsible master plumber to employer is because, and you plumbers can help me with this, but as I understand it, if you're doing a big subdivision or something, you might subcontract out a portion of that work to somebody else. And it might even be a journeyman that brings in a bunch of apprentices to do various jobs on the subdivision. The person that should pay the fine is the person who's paying the paycheck of that unregistered apprentice. They're still working under the responsible master plumber for the total project, but they have subcontracted out a lot of this work to a journeyman who's got a crew of 10 apprentices out there. A lot of times we're running into these journeymen coming in and bringing unlicensed and unregistered people in there, and we're catching them, finding them $4,000, maybe for 2 or 3 people, and then ending up discounting it here in order to settle it. I wanna make it hurt. And I don't wanna cut any deals, and that's not something that they can't do, and that they're cloudy about what the law is. The law is that if you do plumbing work, you're registered, or you've got a license, period. And everybody in this industry knows that. There's no reason not to do that. And I'll tell you further, I've heard arguments at the town hall meetings that, well, I needed some help and I needed them right then, and I couldn't wait for the plumbing board to 30 days to issue them a license. Lisa has authorized the enforcement people that if a person has applied for a license and got their fingerprints, even if the results aren't back, if you've got the documentation, that's as good as a registration. So you're not gonna get a penalty, even if you're not holding a card. If you've got the proper documentation showing you filed your application and you have got your fingerprints, even if the results aren't back, even if we hadn't processed it, you can go to work. And that is as it should be. As a business owner, I know that if I need help, I can't wait for some state agency 30 or 40 days to get me a license to go to work. When I need them right then. So I think it's achievable for them to do that. I think it's clear and unambiguous. And I would like to have a fixed mandatory penalty that's non-negotiable. And if you're agreeable to that, how much should it be? Right now, it's $4,000. The maximum we can charge per person per day is $5,000. So plumbers, what
I
do
think it
y'all,
should be 5,000.
are you okay with a mandatory provision of
For,
that?
for knowingly employing unlicensed, people to work on your job site. Yeah, absolutely. I would take that up to our maximum statutory fine that we're allowed to charge. I'd do $250,000 an occurrence if we could, but we can't.
Well,
And do we have the ability for repeat offenders that we can increase that 5,000?
I think we do.
I think it should be increased it should be a certain
Progressive.
formula. It progresses for every violation, because you can take some large, developers, $5,000 just the cost of doing business. I wouldn't care.
They can
And,
do
and
that.
You gotta
I
make it
agree.
hurt.
I'm afraid that's what's happening to us. I think they know, well, we get caught, big deal. The penalty's 4,000, they'll probably cut it to 2 or 1,500, and we'll just make it a cost of doing business.
Mr.
You'll
Chairman,
see some of
in the
those
example you gave, the 10 guys that picks up off the street.
Right.
This thing says per a registered person, so is that times 10, so now it's a
Times 10,
$40,000 fine
Times
for that
10.
example?
times 10.
Right.
Yes, per person.
So that helps getting it to the ouch factor.
Yeah,
It needs to be the ouch factor, and trust me, I don't wanna hurt people, and I don't wanna penalize people. But the same, what we're looking for is compliance. And if the penalties are not bringing people into compliance, we gotta up the penalties. I hope it's 0. I hope nobody gets caught. I hope everybody starts registering their apprentices, doing what getting them fingerprinted and do what they're supposed to do. I wouldn't want to collect a lot of money from anybody.
A lot of hard businesses now, and everybody's just getting pulled in from here to there and thrown out, and you don't know who's doing what.
But to be clear, my concept, and I have discussed this with Steve and Kathy and Lisa. My idea is not go directly to the RMP who's over the entire project. But if he subcontracts that out to a journeyman who's got a crew of 15 apprentices, that penalty goes to the guy that's paying the paychecks. That might be the journeyman.
Larry, question would be, do we have the authority to find somebody that's not under the supervision of this board?
They are under the super, the journeyman is under the super.
Well, no, you're saying if somebody owns a company and they're not a plumber, they're subbing it to a master, how, do we have the authority to find that person?
Ultimately, I'm hearing two different situations. One is where an RMP is subcontracting out to a journeyman or another licensee or another RMP. And that licensee is employing non-licensed individuals.
Right.
And we clearly have jurisdiction over our licensee. Ultimately, we would have to look at the facts and go, what's happening and who's performing plumbing without a license? And those facts will reveal who we pursue actions against.
And
The
the biggest
question
fact,
is,
who's
though,
writing his paycheck?
Say it's a guy that's a GC on a 3,000 unit apartment complex. Do we have the authority to find that GC?
Ultimately,
Cause he might have hired somebody directly. I'm hoping we do. I'm just asking, do we have that authority?
again, we're gonna have to look at the specific facts and look at a case by case basis. Ultimately, the people performing plumbing without a license are clearly in violation of our statute. And anyone, the RMP that was ultimately holding the contract for that is
Okay,
under our jurisdiction. I think you're kind of proposing a unlicensed middleman somewhere. We're gonna have to look on that in a case by case.
okay.
And like I said, I don't have a problem with the fine going to the responsible master plumber. You know, ultimately, he's
He's the guy.
You know, that R is responsible. If you know, if he goes and hires somebody that he can't trust, I'm not sure that that's necessarily our problem.
Gets him off the hook, yeah.
Okay.
Well, and on the reverse side of that, that GC doesn't have control over who that RMP is hiring sometimes, even though it's his job.
That is true.
So the ultimate factual
I'm just
part
saying,
of
I don't know whether it have, I'm just saying the case that, you know,
being big.
a guy just hires a bunch of people, a bunch of labor to go out there and he doesn't even tell the RMP I hired him. So now who's responsible?
The guy.
Well, and I think that's a
And
good
then-
point. I think the fine, the penalty ought to go to whoever hired the unlicensed people. So, you know, I'm a commercial GC, I do multifamily. So on your apartment example, Ron, you know, if I hire a company with an RMP, they show me, you know, license number and all their credentials and everything, then I should be off the hook. But if that RMP goes and hires a bunch of unlicensed people, then he should be on the hook. If that RMP subs it out to a journeyman who goes and hires a bunch of unlicensed people, then that person should be on the hook. So I think it's whoever the person is that's actually hiring the unlicensed people should be the one taking the heat.
A lot of it has to do with direction and control too, when we start looking
Okay.
at it. And I think you're gonna find in an example, there's an apprentice on our list today that,
Yeah.
subcontracts to multiple plumbers and has crews, and he runs a business, but he doesn't contract to the public, he contracts to the plumbers. And,
Operates under an RMP, yeah.
and the
Contracts with the
RMP, is, you know, still hiring this company to do this. And you've got one journeyman on one house, and then there's 15 other people that have nothing on the other house, so every single one of them, you have to look at the circumstances.
Lisa, I've always noticed that we've had that. Lynn, from your standpoint, I mean, is that just skirting around the law?
I'm not
Because the
sure.
law states that an RMP has to enter into a contract with a customer. Well, if an apprentice is entering into a contract with an RMP, isn't he technically breaking the law? Cause he's entering into a contract without an RMP to an RMP.
That goes back to workforce commission and contract labor issues too,
Right.
and we've been down that road.
To me, it's just kind of a different way to skin the cat.
All right, this item, number 9, having to do these mandatory penalties falls in the same category as number 8. It's a discussion item only. It's something we probably won't take action on until maybe the first of the year, so we'll have a meeting or two. But just to kind of summarize what I'm hearing the board say and the staff, is no one is objecting to a mandatory penalty, maybe even a mandatory penalty that's greater than the one we have right now. And the question out there that needs to be resolved is who has to pay the penalty?
And how much is the mandatory?
Yeah. So
So
that,
this isn't an action item?
no, it's not an action item. It's just one of those items that we're gonna get some feedback and some ideas from the board. But number one, are you okay with a mandatory non-negotiable penalty?
Yes.
And number two, how much should it be? And the unanswered question is, let's identify who that penalty is gonna go against. And that's something that Lynn's gonna have to work on and our enforcement staff. But if we can get those issues resolved, the industry needs to know that we're gonna crack down on unlicensed people working in the field, period.
It'll standardize it for the enforcement department.
It will, and Steve had no problem with this whatsoever, and I asked him, I said, well, the only defense that a plumber's gonna have is, well, they had them on the job, but they weren't doing plumbing work. And Steve described to me what they do when they will actually sit outside with a pair of binoculars and they'll watch somebody doing plumbing work and document not only who it was, but specifically the job that they were performing on what portion of the plumbing system they were working on. So he didn't seem to be that concerned about that. So with that being said, let's do like we did on the previous. Let's get some feedback on it from the industry. Board members can think about it, and you will see this again on agenda item maybe next time. And then maybe the following time, we will actually put it in formal rule and move on it. It's 11:15. What I'd like to do now is we have scheduled as item number 15, a executive session. So I would suggest at this time that we end our opening meeting, move into a executive session. And I think I've got some language here. My suggestion that we go into a closed session pursuant to 55.074 of the Texas Open Meetings Act to discuss the performance and salary of our executive director. My suggestion, we do that, and immediately after our executive session, we break for lunch and come back here at 12:30 to finish up the meeting, and we'll begin with Lisa's report. And I think we can be out of here prior to 2 o'clock. That suit everybody's fancy?
Sir.
All right, with that being said, the board will go to a closed session at this time pursuant to 551.074 of the Open Meetings Act to discuss the performance and salary of executive director. And we will reconvene in open session at 12:30, same place. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, could I request that somebody send me the link to the executive session, please?
It's been sent
It's been sent to you. I was
Okay.
told,
to your state
Thank you.
email.
to your state email account.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Okay. See the public back. Is there a motion before we move to the executive director report?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to approve an increase in the executive director's compensation to $134,000 effective as of September 1, 2025.
Second,
Second.
motion and a second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Lisa, I think we're to item 10, if you're ready to start on your report.
Yes, sir, I am, and thank you. I appreciate that. Hold on. There was, I think, huh? You can- we did have some personnel changes recently. We lost an examiner, and you'll see that I have a posting for the examiner out. And in September, there'll be a posting for another examiner. I have some applicants now, but I'm certainly interested in looking at more. We're also still looking for an attorney. And, some administrative folks, so watch our website, if you're interested in coming to work, it's a fun place. Lots of work, but it's a great place.
We're gonna have to hire as an attorney, or Lynn's gonna have to start prosecuting cases.
And, yeah, it may be.
Because, you know, enforcement is really important to us, and I was trying to talk Lynn into telling me that a non-attorney could represent us at SOA. But she's convinced me that that's not possible, so
And, well, and we have.
dust off your prosecutorial skills, Lynn. Hopefully we can find this one though.
We also have in the legal department, and which is gonna be helping to some degree with enforcement. We have Michael Van Houten, who's a brand new attorney, or not attorney,
Assistant.
legal assistant. I'm sorry, I want some. Anyway, he's a legal assistant, but he's doing great. He's sharp, and this is Michael. So if you see Michael running around, he's new. He's picking stuff up, and we're happy to have you. And you
We
can stay
are.
as long as you
Welcome.
want.
Thank you.
He's a sharp dresser and it's gonna add a little class to this organization. Glad to have you, Mike.
Uh, we also have an attorney, Aldo. I don't know where Aldo is. I'm sorry, I am so stuck on it. I'm looking feverishly for an attorney. Anyway, we got an intern who's also gonna end up probably going to law school,
He,
so.
he is in law school right now,
Yeah.
just finished his first year.
Where is he? See, now,
Uh,
He is,
He's here somewhere,
He's here
Aldo Sepulveda, calling Aldo.
so, he's coming from, UT Law.
But we lost, a field investigator, two. Bob retired, two field investigators. Bob retired and Mason retired out of Houston, so, we've got stuff all over the state that's open right now. And we're gonna be doing quite a few interviews. It doesn't pay a lot of money, the benefits are good, but the people are great, and it's an important job. And it looks nice to say you're working for Farm Bureau. Yeah, yeah. So I'm happy to look at any, any applications. As far as fingerprinting, we're at about 92%, and I think that's kind of a plateau because we continue to get new people into the system. So we're staying on top of that. Our process is good. The amount of people that we have doing it so far is good. And I'm happy to report that the plumbers and the apprentices have just jumped right in. We did send a large mass mailing out to apprentices recently. Had quite a few apps that were sitting there unprocessed because they didn't have fingerprints. So remind your apprentices to get fingerprints. And their app will get processed much more quickly. You'll also notice that we have the statistics on licenses and registrations, and we continue to run right around 102 to 107,000 licenses, registrations, and endorsements. And our individuals remain, they float around 75,000, give or take some periodically, so we just constantly, we're going up and down. Every day that number changes. It's not going down, it's gonna continue to increase. So we're happy about that. And I'm gonna skip one item and wanna, because I'm talking about the number of people here, well, no, I'll leave that, I'll get it later. I just have quite a few things, but I don't wanna bore everybody. The next item is the update to 7915 Cameron Road, 7915 Cameron Road, that's where we're moving to. It's about 5 miles from here. It's a big old building, but it requires a lot of work. And Mr. Denton covered quite a bit of stuff on it earlier, but something that you gotta remember, just to coordinate moving this table, having this glass picked up, moving that dais in 4 pieces, putting it where it goes, making sure that the flooring's down before that. You can imagine, so multiply that by about 100, and that's what we gotta do. That stack of stuff over there are file boxes that are about to be our archive files, so this is gonna be our chance to do a huge amount of archives, so things that we're required to keep. Things that we're not required to keep are going away. So, a lot of work's going on all at the same time, and after this board meeting, our next board meeting will be in a brand new room. And, well, maybe October, I don't know.
September.
Oh, is it September? I expected him to say August 31st, that's awesome. Like, oh,
No, I think it might be September, right? Yeah, I'm kind of laughing about it, but I am serious because I think our administrative offices and our boardroom will be
Yeah.
ready to go. We won't be ready on the exam
right.
portion, but I actually think,
The boardroom is actually the first room I'm getting ready over there. It has to have flooring in it, that dais has to be moved. And it has a bunch of shelves, the shelves have to be moved out to the exam and, it has to have flooring. And a couple other little things done in it, and so we've kind of focused on that because I need this room to stage everything that's coming out of the building back to here, so we've got a good plan. And, we gotta be out, that's all there is to it, so bear with us. Licensing will always be up and running. We've got a meeting tomorrow with AT&T and DIR, I think, Friday. Because we're trying to coordinate the transition of our telephone, our voice and our data over to this other building, which is no small challenge because the fire marshal is still in that building too. So we've got to transition their system to our system, and we have to have a new port brought specifically for us, and that's what AT&T is working on right now. So we're gonna have another meeting with them, but it's all in the works. And so licensing will come up very easily, I hope, whenever we get ready to put them over there. But in the interim, for some reason, if we go through a series of not being able to dial direct into this line, we'll be on cell phones and licensing, which we've done before in a disaster and during COVID and work from home and all that kind of stuff. So there's always a way to get it done. It might not be the traditional way, so bear with us in August. Something I did want to mention too. Well, let me address E real quick. We also had an enforcement audit. And, the very first item, they said we did really, really good. And remember, auditors are supposed to find things that you can do even better. And, one of the things in the audit was the, collections of past due penalties. And anybody listening that has a past due penalty, we may be reaching out to you, but we made some headway on the past due penalties, and since we got started on some of those, we've got $90,000. And I think it coincided with maybe tax returns, I don't know, but it worked anyhow. And we've also been in contact with the Attorney General, and they lowered their threshold of collection from 5,000 down to 1,000. So now we have redeveloped the transition of the cases over to the AG's collection department. And when they start collecting, they get real serious. They attach stuff and look at your background and see what you own and all that kind of stuff. Anyhow, so we have a new process with them. And we have all of the cases that are eligible to go to the AG's collection over there, which was, I think about 70 or so, 98 over there. And they're working on them and corresponding back and forth with us, and finding individuals that, owe the plumbing board penalty. So anyway, so it worked out really good. We still need an attorney, and we've upped the money on it for any attorneys that are listening, so out there, so look at the posting. And we'll be moving some more cases through. And we visited with the auditors about all of this process and how it has to go and changes and all that good stuff. So if you read all 20-some pages of that and you have any questions, let me know.
You know, let me just comment on this, because Lisa has talked to me extensively about this. The auditor, most of the things that they found were documentation or less than documentation issues. I didn't see anything that was any cause of concern. There was an issue about, us having some unaccounted for numbers, isn't that right?
Mhm.
Open cases that were no longer there.
Mhm.
And Lisa has said that at the end of the year, they normally assign some of those numbers and they don't end up getting filled. So it was all administrative documentation. And I have spent quite a bit of time with Lisa and her group in going over there. So I didn't find any reason for concern, and audits are good. Because I think they pointed out, I don't think there was anything invalid that was pointed out
Nothing.
that we need to correct. The things that were invalid, Lisa talked with them and they removed them, so. I always think audits are a good thing. I know they're kind of a pain in the rear end to the staff that has to provide all the material. But it's a healthy thing for an organization to have a third-party audit. So
It's a tremendous amount of work. I mean, pulling the files out, because what they do is they pull your electronic data and then your paper and, well, if you use the word reconcile, the two things together. And our biggest problem was the sequential numbering. When you pull a number out of a bucket, it can be assigned to 3 different types of things. And so when you look at complaint numbers and there's gaps, it could have actually been a number that goes to a job site check. And so we had to do work on that and explain that, because they're like, oh, there's stuff missing, so.
the
But we
problem
double
is,
checked.
when you say they pull it out, they don't do anything. They tell you to pull it out.
Yeah, we had
So we end up pulling it out and they end up analyzing it. So
Yeah.
it is a lot of work on the
two
staff.
staff members. I mean, they give you a list of stuff and we're like pulling files and pulling files. We had stuff stacked everywhere. And audits are not a bad thing. They are truly not. Over the years, believe me, I've been through lots of them. Audit, okay, it's a lot of work, but let's do it. And we do have financial audit eventually, that we're gonna have to do too. So, but I got Dan, so. I'm feeling comfortable with that
You're
too. so.
using a page out of my book. I never worried about it. You take care of it.
There you
All this
go.
moving
See,
stuff,
I
it's
do
no
know
big
how to
deal.
delegate
You
when
do,
I have
that's
someone.
right.
Anyhow, but it went smoothly. It's a lot of work and we learned a couple of things and we made a couple of little changes and just kept rolling on, so. Any questions on those 22 pages?
They're thinking about collections and stuff. Will that be changing how we handle all these things from the cease and desist or all the fine things we just went over? Or are they asking that every single one go through the same steps because they're saying some of them didn't have things done like the other ones did? Are we
What-
consistent in all this stuff?
What it is they want, 2 notice letters from our collection department prior to them getting it, so that they can say that these 2 attempts have already been made. And in lowering the threshold from 5,000 to 1,000, that makes a lot more cases
Yeah.
eligible to go there, is what it amounts to. And we had so many that were more than 5,000, you know, at a time, at one time. But those are the ones that we've been working on collecting. And they're not eligible to go over there because they didn't fall in the time period of when they said they had to have these 2 notices. So we didn't do 2 notices. We were doing the old school way, which was the 1 notice and putting a warrant hold or a hold on them and then sending them. And they said, well, we're not gonna take those anymore, but we'll take anything you got, $1,000 or more, we'll take it. And we went, okay, well, we got lots of those. So that's kind of the new system.
Okay.
To you get 2 notices, and after that, the notice you're gonna get is gonna come from the AG's office. It's out of my control. So work with us, but we did take some of these other ones, and my aunt, who's not here today, who is under Dan's supervision and department, the finance department, we took some of our old collection ways and revamped them to do the old ones, and that's how we ended up the 90,000, so. It's pretty good, it's quite a bit of work. So, but it's good, it's good.
Lisa, I got a question. Can
Yes,
you
sir.
provide us an update on virtual supervision? On how that's progressing? Or if we've had any progress? I was looking at our numbers on our registered, our drain cleaners, RUIs. They're seeming to stay about the same. Have we had any response to?
I can't say that there was an increase, but the numbers on the endorsements do stay about the same.
Yes.
On that, the sheet you have there, you'll see. I don't think there's been a big push on them, even though we've advertised and explained that if you have that RUI, that you could go out and do certain tasks. But there's just not there, I think that's kind of a niche. And you're either in that situation, you wanna go out and do those repair type things, or you're not. So it hasn't been quite as big of a deal. But you may see that more now, which kind of rolls into the training that the apprentices are gonna do, that's, you know, the different CE course and stuff. So, and you might get some pretty sharp ones too.
I just didn't know if we'd had any feedback from the industry concerning.
A big surge, and you know, the biggest problem, it's not a problem, there's two parts. Once they get to that level of that drain cleaner and that, RUI, for the most part, they're ready to jump up to the tradesman, so they jump up to the tradesman, so that number on the endorsements is just kind of doing this, whereas my tradesmen are gradually going up. It's kind of the way we look at it. But we certainly welcome anybody that wants to get one. Which kind of leads me to another item I wanted to talk about. Let me mention this, on the application for any new masters that may begin September 1, 2025. That application, if it's approved and that House bill occurs and all that stuff, is, we've got minor changes, and I'm just waiting to push the button on it. And you'll pay, and we didn't calculate this fee in there either, but we'll calculate it, but. So you'll pay a small fee on our side for us to process your master app. And then you'll turn right around and you'll pay for the full exam through Pearson, just like you do now. What's different is we've gotta stop, make sure you're eligible. So remember, you can look yourself up online and see how long you've held your journeyman license. It's visible to everyone. So if you send your application in and you're really not eligible until October 31st, it's not gonna get processed until after October 31st, and it will have snowballed kind of to roll to the back again, because it was ineligible. So make sure you're eligible, because the speed at which you can get your app in here, be eligible, all you need is your photo ID, because all your journeyman's gonna have to be current. Photo ID is simple, current photo ID. You're gonna do your application, pay your fee. You're going to get approved and you're gonna get a authorization to test email. So just make sure you're already current, because as soon as you get the authorization to test, you can turn right around and pick a day to go take it. The turnaround's gonna be quick on this, and I think we're gonna have a lot of takers. But do yourself a favor and look yourself up on the public site, make sure you're eligible. September 1, if in fact this goes into effect. And Kevin will put this giant notice up about it. Oh, G is important. We had a huge update that large companies and, large companies that have 40, 50 users in there, have a whole bunch of plumbers, a whole bunch of apprentices. They can now, to the right-hand side of their screen, see the license or registration number and the name together. Before, it only showed the license number, and it was really quirky. And so we spent quite a bit of money fixing this, and it took us a year to get it done, but we got it done, and we sent it out to some of the larger companies to test, and they were just so happy. They can pull it up and see every single person listed on one page now.
So is that live now?
Yeah, it's
It's
like,
available for
yep. We sent it out to our heavy users and they're like, oh, it works. So it was a good thing. It was worth every penny. Getting us something that needed to be done, and, it just wasn't part of the system when we first bought it out of the box, you know? No, they all thought it was gonna be single users, and we're like, no, we've got companies that have 50, 60, 100 people. So anyway, it was a good thing, so I'm happy that we got that done. We also have the examination report. And in the exam report, you will see that the, pass fail went down just a hair. And I really do attribute it to the fact that we've had kind of a push on tradesmen coming in, and they just haven't been ready. So, tradesman, journeyman, you need to be ready before you come take the exam. And, it's not, GW will tell you, it's a lot of rough ends fail. And on tradesmen, there's quite a bit of the shop fail. So they need to know how to do the stuff, you know? And practice it before you come to take the test. The turnaround process on those applications to come take the test we've said it's about 30 days, but a lot of times it's much more quick. It's pretty fast these days.
You know, Lisa, you and I visited about this the other day. I think too, the ease of scheduling the written exam and the practical exam is probably pushing people into doing it before they're actually
Faster.
prepared for it.
Yeah, I agree.
If nothing else, they want to just take a chance and see if maybe I can pass it without all the studying. Cause it's not that big a deal. If I don't pass it, I can get it in the next month. But it is down. It's, you know.
And I'll tell you, I also have, I'm gonna need that in just a minute, but the other thing that I have, we went. Right now, there's 810 exam applications processed, people ready to take an exam. And of those, the majority of those are written exams. And of course, they're not gonna come take the practical until they pass the other. But, about, I think it was 480, I didn't bring my little notepad in here. Anyhow, so we've got about 360 some. They're scheduled and they're ready to take the practical, so.
So this is gonna be a good year.
Oh, yeah,
We'll be bumping 11,000 exams this year.
yeah, easy.
And
Even
you
with
can-
some downtime, I think we'll be fine.
When you compare that with 5,800 in 2022, that's a pretty good number. The one thing it's a little bit concerning to me, and the board probably noticed this, even that our exams are up to 10,500 this year, the number of actual people that were licensed is down from last year. We had 6,900 who had passed and were licensed last year versus 6,400 this year. So
You
it's
have-
like Lisa said, be prepared before you come here and take
Yeah.
that exam.
Yeah, the amount that are taking it and just, there's some that come and they get ready to take it and walk back out the door, and that's a real shame. Because there's just more to the practical than what they anticipated. They might be getting the written, but the practical's kind of throwing them for a loop, so. We've been given quite a few. So. The other thing that people ask about is how does the pass-fail rate compare between Austin and, Waco? You know, we look at that constantly because we wanna be consistent. And, I tell you, we're 63 and 64%. I mean, they run neck and neck. When we train somebody, we train them to be consistent, follow the rules, follow the path. And I expect that to be true when you go to Arlington, we'll get it open. Whenever you go to the mobile unit, we get it open. It will be consistent because the grading, the process is gonna be consistent all the way around. So.
And that's important because the rumor will start out, well, if you gotta take it, be sure to take it in Austin or be
Oh,
sure
I'm
to take
watching
it in
it like a
Waco.
hawk, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I watch very close, and we typically run it. Oh. Where I have under exams, I have high school applicants. The very first high school applicant is John Bunkers. One of John Bunkers out of Woodville ISD. And that kiddo, young man, is coming, pretty soon. I think probably, he probably will be ready for practical by about August or so. But gosh, I almost feel sorry for him because John and I put so much pressure on him about, okay, are you ready? You know, and I said, okay, I got your apps ready, just let me know and, you know, do this, do that, and. It's kind of exciting, and I'm gonna say his name's Carmelo in case he happens to be listening, but. About August, we should see how he does,
Awesome.
but he's feeling some pressure, I can tell you that. And he's studying more and, but he plans to go ahead and sign up and take his written pretty soon, so we're excited about that. And I expect some more coming. I think I've got some that probably are coming from Tyler and somewhere else, maybe in Houston. I don't know for sure. Oh, gosh. I don't wanna skip this one. Number 12. We've done a lot of outreach, but we went to Abilene and did an Abilene Town Hall. And we did it at TSTC's, facility there in Abilene, and man, their facility is nice, their folks are nice. And, Darren was there and we went out and ate, did all these things in Abilene, visited with people and had tours, and it was a big deal, and it was really nice, and I almost wanted to move to Abilene. It was so nice, but we had a good time and we had a good turnout. It wasn't huge by any means, but, it was very sufficient, and I've talked to people from Abilene since I've been back, and, we're gonna keep it on our tour schedule, I'll put it that way. And we've still got plans to go to a couple other places. We'll see how the smooth goes and how staff goes. I can only have them doing and wearing so many hats, but it was a good trip. and
Thank
we're
you,
gonna do
Darren,
some
for
more.
helping facilitate that.
And I'll segue that with their facility, they're building a new facility right now for a
Wow.
farming program.
Yeah,
And diesel and a few other programs are going in that same building, but it is state of the art. I mean. it
Tremendous.
is
Good.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful building.
it is, I mean, it looks so neat and the function of it, and I had such a good conversation with them about all my ideas, just looking at it, and so, together we might come up with some other really interesting things, and Jimmy was there from Waco. So we looked at, the things that could be added in training and exam, and it was interesting. Steve and crew did a career and technology education event in Gerald. That was good. And some good attendance. We've been to the Building Professional Institute meeting recently in, I think that one was in Houston. We've got, or no, they did Irving. And, they did Irving. We've got, in Fredericksburg, Steve went to a small business group meeting, which was like area, city and county, kind of rural stuff down in there. And, that was a good showing. We've also got boat we wanna go to and another BPI coming up. We have APHCC in August, we're gonna go to. So we've got a lot going on. I don't know, going to something in August might be a break for me, I'm
You
not
might be
sure,
glad to get away.
for one day.
Yeah.
Cause there'll be stuff flying around the room, I'm sure by then. Anyhow, we're happy we're able to go to those items, so. Any questions? Anybody have anything? If not, I'll turn it over to Dan and then I'll wrap up the enforcement since we've got a lot of things to do. And, oh, and not to be picky, y'all, but, we needed to update the motion on my raise. Because it has some cents on it and stuff. It's actually 134,827.
Move we amend the motion.
We need to vacate the previous motion and make the new motion.
I move we vacate the previous motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The number should have been what?
In spite of what I was given, it's a different number.
Give it to them.
I'll let it go, worry about it.
And we have to send it to the comptroller that it was posted on an agenda.
Make a motion to approve an increase in the executive director's compensation to $134,827.
Your second,
Second.
all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Lisa, just for the record, Lynn, Ally, and Michael, they might have been the ones trying to knock you out of that $800.
Really?
Yeah, they gave us a piece of paper with the amount on it, so
Cool.
you need to take it up with your staff.
Yeah.
Should leave a lawyer for that.
You're right.
Anyway, go ahead.
Well, thank you. Okay, you ready?
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Dan, it's Dan's turn. Actually.
13.
Yeah, 13. And we're in great shape, but I'll let him explain it.
Okay. Dan Krischer, Finance Director, and this is tab number 7. This is the board finance report for, so this is the financial update for the 9 months ending May 31st, 2025. And, if you look at the first page, that's got 2 tables on it, and, that show the two tables are basically the same thing, just different formats. So first table is, listed each appropriation, our original appropriation, and expenditures through, so the first 9 months of the fiscal year. So our appropriations are around, just a little bit under $4 million, and our expenditures through the first 3 quarters are about 2.77 million. And that comes out to about 72.5%. And so I think we're right on track for our spending, because on 75% of the year, and we're slightly under that, so I think we're in good shape.
Dan, let me ask you a question. Does that number include the 20,000 that we were required to send to the facilities commission?
No, we paid that in early June, so that would not be included.
Okay, all right.
And,
So that's gonna be an expense that we didn't have budgeted.
But we get it back out of the money we're getting in June, kind of, in June. July.
so that's the first page. Are there any questions on the first page? Okay. So page 2 and 3 has our revenues and number of licensees by license type. So that's kind of a breakdown of our revenues. And then on the final page is our, a summary of our revenues by two categories, our exam licensing and registration revenues and our civil penalty revenues. And so, let's see, for the first 9 months of 2025, we're rated about 3.55 million for exam and licensing revenues compared to about 3.4 million for the same time last year. And so that's an increase of about 146,000 or 4%, so we're a little bit ahead on that. That's pretty much it. Any questions?
Questions, anyone? I think we're looking pretty good. Dan? Looks, it would appear from this that we're gonna make it to the end of the year within our appropriated amount.
Yeah, I'm gonna get close in August, but I think we'll make it.
Okay.
We've got several large purchases that we've gotta make, and that's one of the reasons it's important that the 20,000 that we had to scrape up, that we get that back in the last quarter.
And Dan, you're still working on whatever the protocol or procedure is to access those funds?
Yes. That's what I'm
With the recent terminations, which I'm assuming that also helps.
Well,
Not
it
perfect.
actually helps and hinders in some ways. It hinders in two ways and helps in this particular situation.
Right.
So you got a couple of months of no salary. But you also have to pay out the one-time leave payments, which are sometimes a little steep on somebody that retires before we were planning on it. So, but you know.
At best, it's a wash,
Yeah,
kind of.
yeah.
Doesn't really, you'd think it helps, but it really doesn't necessarily help.
Yeah, and it's the timing of this time, man. Yeah, if the timing had been a little bit different, you'd go, oh, yeah, I could get maybe that new printer I want or something.
Are we able to push any of the major, maybe you've already done this, but are we able to push any of the expenditures we anticipate in June, July, and August into September of next year?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You won't be stocking up on material, that's for
No,
sure. then.
normally, right now, May, June, July is when we take stock of everything. I mean, toilet paper, paper towels, supplies, everything. And we make some pretty big purchases towards the last quarter. That won't be happening this time because we're shuffling so much money to get moved and do things that we need to do.
Okay.
And we actually have, and how it works is we have funds encumbered right now for moving, and certain other items that we need to get done that we wouldn't normally encumber right now. So it kind of pulls it out of your bucket prematurely, so to speak. But you want to know that it's out of there. But we've tossed it around every which way we can, I think, and I think we've done good. We've shuffled a lot of stuff. So. And matter of fact, recently, I did have to break down and buy, a little bit more pipe to split between the two shops to get us into September, October, so. But I mean, that's, $50,000-$60,000 if I really do a big restock.
Anything?
Is that taken into consideration on the exam fees? The amount of product being used for the. Where, I mean, we're obviously looking at. Additional revenue needing to come in to accommodate whatever, but at the same time, have we actually looked at the cost of the exam?
We have over the years and it's normally just kind of a break even. It doesn't make you a lot of money, but it doesn't cost you a lot. The difference is, I'd say in the last 3 to 4 years, running 2 exams on one budget was a little tough for a couple of years there. But the cost of material you're really starting to see the cost go up.
Right.
And so that's where we're starting. We'll feel it this next year.
Is that something else we just need for future consideration, to look at when we're doing?
In the future, maybe. We'd like to try to keep it reasonably priced, you know, so that we don't have to up it because of that, because you know as well as I do, you go to the grocery store and buy one thing you bought last week, it's twice the price, it seems like. So we're trying to do the best job we can with the.
We're
what we have
doing
to
a
work
good
with.
job, and I'll tell you, if you look around the world, we may be the only thing in the world that hadn't gone up in the
Yeah.
last, we hadn't had a fee increase in
It's
10, 15 years.
14,
So we may be the only thing in the world that has not gone up, but the reason we hadn't is we're able to pick it up through picking up additional volume. More people coming into the industry and more tests being given. So we're gonna stay on that course. It's a real hard thing for business people like us on the board to realize we're not in this to make money. We're just trying to cover our expenses. You know, logically, from a business standpoint, when you get an increase in cost, you pass it on to your customer. And, as a state agency, a service agency that we are, we're just trying to hold it down. And I think the agency's done a remarkable job not having a fee increase. As a matter of fact, they've had decreases in the last 10, 15 years, $100 off the master fee and eliminating the endorsement fees. So I think,
we pinch every penny
I
twice.
think you should, and I think it's a good thing. That's what we're supposed to do, so.
And you'll notice too, that if you do get 2 cards right now, you're probably gonna start seeing one piece of paper in there. I mean, that's saving, that's how we're saving every single thing. You're gonna start seeing one piece of paper instead of 2 in there, because that one piece of paper times 75,000, you know, over a period of a year's time, that's a lot. And it changes the weight of the envelope, and that's how the charges goes by the weight of the envelope, so.
People make fun of us for that, but I'll tell you, if you'll pay attention to the pennies and the nickels and the dimes, the dollars will take care of themselves.
Because it's more important if I wanna get that new 3D printer that we're just drilling over. If we gotta pinch every other penny, that's how we do it, to get that other item.
You know, a little bit off the subject, but not really, it has to do with cost. I bet we picked up for no cost,
Yes.
equipment and shelving and things from the insurance commission that they were gonna just surplus as junk. So we said, yeah, we'll take it, including a forklift
And a little box truck.
and a box
It's
truck.
a 06, but we don't care, it's only got 76,000 miles on it.
Yeah. So we
You're
picked up,
gonna drive a forklift in our new place?
He did, yeah.
who, me?
Yeah.
No.
I thought that's why we were going over
Gotta
there
get
to go
certified.
drive that.
He still just has to furnish it.
Gotta get started.
That's right, I do have a friend there, right, so. But no, all kidding aside,
Right.
we did pick up, I don't know, $100,000 worth of
That's right.
shelving and equipment.
Yeah, and 2 sets of fairly new, 2-year-old furniture
Yeah, I mean, really
and
nice
desks,
stuff.
riser desks. Everybody that moved downtown got all new stuff. We're so used to having used that we're like, ooh, that's new to us.
And
Don't want that,
it's
we'll
not
take
junk.
it.
If it was junk or trash, at least the trash didn't junk it, but anything that was good quality equipment, hand carts, and I know that's not a big deal, but it is a big
saves
deal.
money.
It is a
Buy
big deal.
one.
Yeah.
Go
Go
buy
buy
one.
one and multiply that times about 10, because we
We
usually
picked
do
up a-
10 of something, it's a savings.
Yeah,
But my little box truck's pretty cool.
but I'll tell you, it's a culture within this agency that's a good one. And we need to cultivate it, and maintain it, because that's the kind of agency we wanna run.
Yeah. You know, we used to be a much heavier cash cow. I mean, couple $1,000,000 back all the time. And that came, I mean, it comes in handy, but it also sometimes haunts you. Don't get anything out of it, you give it back, put it in a different.
That's
bucket.
my objection. Is we were raising a lot of money and it was going into the general fund and we didn't get a nickel's worth of benefit from it.
About 4 years we didn't get.
So as far as I'm concerned, we're gonna slide in under the wire every year. Yeah. So. You know, the one thing about dealing with the legislature, and I found that out this time, it is a lot easier to get attention and get $1 billion than it is $1 million. They deal with these billion-dollar school requests and health and human services and things like that. And bless their heart, I mean, the legislators have got their plate loaded, because they're dealing in some huge numbers. And to get the legislator and the legislative budget board's attention to make sure we get under $675,000, it's a job. Let me tell you something, because they're dealing and giving 100 million to MD Anderson and, you know, how many billions to the school districts. So it's difficult to get attention from them. And, I bet you they're as glad as we are that it's over with, because we have been a pest.
We have been, Frank has done a tremendous job.
Being a pest, that's exactly right.
But I mean, it takes a lot of wheels to keep it turning, and it's just everywhere we looked, it's like, oh my gosh, we don't want to fall through a crack.
It is so discouraging when you spend a lot of time telling an LBB analyst or a legislator what you need and why you need it, and why it's critical to you, and you go back 2 weeks later and they look at, now, what exactly was it that you were talking about? I mean, just, it's really frustrating. So you have to end up going back and back and back and back. Anyway, go ahead, Lisa, sorry, or Dan. Do you have anything else? Okay. Lisa, back to you on enforcement, I guess.
Sounds good. On enforcement, we've got the summary of complaint cases, and you also have the penalties imposed. And I think, did they both get in there? I'm looking at.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Tab 8
Okay.
and 9.
Yeah, and so then you've also got the number of applications that were reviewed. And, I mean, we just continue to go right down the line every chance we get. And something that I thought was kind of interesting, since we had this conversation earlier about penalties and violations and stuff. We do this complaint review process, and we also break it down to, the different types of alleged violations. And the majority of the time, the number one violation is contracting without the proper license. In this particular quarter, when we did these numbers, engage without a license became the most issue. So it kind of went along with it. But the other thing that I thought was interesting is there were 16 municipal violations for not getting a permit. Well, you wanna know who it is that didn't get the permit? It's the same one, it's not the same one, but it's a portion of the ones that would have also engaged, they couldn't get a permit. So they violated a couple of ways there. And in addition to, it's red tape to go get a permit, but it's also insurance in a way. To go get the insurance, to go get the permit, so. Thought that was interesting that engaging popped up as the most that we issued in that particular quarter. Let's see. No penalties. There were also 12 cases that got reviewed and worked that were closed for voluntary compliance. There were 19 warnings issued. And there were a lot of that were filed that didn't really have any proof of violation. But they may have been able to be addressed, such as, I saw in 1972, whatever, driving down the road, pipe on it, and the guy looked like, he might be doing plumbing. And we record all this stuff, but come to find out they weren't doing any plumbing, and there's no proof, so.
Lisa, this
We
is a,
investigate everything.
it kind of fits here. One of the 7 new employees that we had requested and got funded is gonna be an enforcement,
Cyber
person
complaints.
that's gonna do nothing but cyber complaints. Nothing but looking on Facebook and Craigslist and handling complaints that come in and photographs that are sent in. And that's all they're gonna do. They're gonna stick to it 100%. Now, that's what we're gonna use them for, and we're gonna let them stay there.
And we've tried several times to do it. We end up pulling them in the field because
Yeah.
we don't have enough people. We're hoping this time we can really home in on it and knock some of that out.
I wanna look at the statute. I don't think that person has to be a plumber.
No, I don't think they necessarily have to be a plumber.
That'll keep you from grabbing them and putting them in the field.
That's true, but they need to be an analytical
They
type,
need analytical
Investigate.
technology.
maybe criminal and technology and,
A retired cop would be great.
yeah, something like that. Here it is, go find this person. Because I'm gonna tell you, I mean, the anonymity they get from doing online, you gotta be able to see through a lot of that stuff.
But anyway, that is something, one of the 7 that we got is for that position. And I really look forward to that, because that's gonna address a lot of the feedback we get from the industry about unlicensed activity and posting on Facebook, they do plumbing and things of that nature, so we'll have a person, that's all he does is track down cyber.
Or maybe she,
Advertising.
I don't know yet,
Or she,
he or she,
that's exactly right, yeah.
we'll
Okay.
see. Oh, goodness, and along those lines, we did do some reviews of individuals with past criminal convictions. There were 115 reviewed this last quarter, 73 of them were able to be approved. 38 of those were renewals that had some type of conviction that had not previously been reviewed. So that's not good. Stay out of trouble is the moral of that story. All in all, there was 115, so that was it's quite a bit of work to review, individuals with past criminal convictions. And I'll tell you, some of those mixed in there are people that had not had their fingerprints done before. And they also roll over on the other report in false info. So they had to get reviewed. They ended up with some kind of false information because they didn't tell us about it last year or the year before. And it came up on fingerprints and just goes on and on and on, so. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Well, I've gotta get a couple more people in enforcement. Not just because of that, we just need help. Oh my gosh. Oh, recent field activities, I wanted to tell you about that a little bit. The field investigators, I mean, we're kind of short this quarter, but they still managed to visit, 179 different cities, so there. And wandering around, and what happens is they may go work a complaint and have to go by and look at an installation or a repair or whatever it is, or visit with the homeowner. And then they can cover a little bit of that territory while they're there. And they also, I think, we can look back over on this one. I mean, with these, were there.
You know, while you're doing that, Lisa,
Yeah.
something popped into my mind that I wanted to mention. A month ago, we got a call from the executive director of TDLR, who requested if they could come over here and talk to us about what we're doing in the high school program. They cannot understand how we could get that many plumbing programs in that many high schools in that short a period of time. So the executive director, along with probably, 5 or 6 of her deputy executive directors, came over and spent a couple hours with Lisa and I talking about it. So I consider that a real compliment when an agency like TDLR is coming to us to copy us rather than us trying to copy them. So I was real proud of that. And of course, we're pleased to help. And the point is, they also committed to working with us on joint investigations and sting operations and things like that. So it kind of relates to enforcement also.
Yeah, we were actually talking about, we were gonna try to plan one this quarter, if not the first quarter of the next year, but with all that's going on, it's probably gonna end up being next year. The way it looks, their plate got full and ours is with the move, so. And we've done lots of stuff with them before.
Yep.
Oh, let's see. Oh, and we also monitored some, continuing education classes. And I want to remind everybody, we can't possibly sit in everyone and monitor everyone, but we monitor those online classes and the actually physically walking into some classes. If you're unhappy with your continuing education class, if they let you out in 2 hours, which I know that you know, you paid for 6, okay, you're enjoying getting out too, but if you paid for 6 hours, we wanna know about it. If you didn't get the material, if you learned about everything but plumbing in that class, we wanna know about it. We need the students that attend the CE classes to be the extra eyes and ears when we can't go to every single class and monitor every single one. But we get complaints, sometimes they're legitimate and sometimes they're not. We can't worry about whether they had veggie or hamburger pizza. But, well, if they didn't like the content of the class or didn't get something, we sure can. And or if the instructor was 2 hours late. That's not fair. If everybody's there on time and the instructor's late. So, we're here if you wanna tell us about something. Oh, goodness, okay, I'm trying to hurry up. Oh, the next big thing is I think we've got 12 cease and desist. Those are things that were generated through a complaint investigation. They may be a standalone cease and desist, or they may be in combination with some other type of violation as well. So, do those, they're a good tool. They're a tool that's historical in the event that we end up in some other court, or district, or, you know, right on down the line. But they're also a good tool because that's the kind of tool you'll have to use in certain cases on some of these cyber type complaints we were talking about earlier. So we continue to do those and you'll see them there. You also have a package, and it is quite a package of, individuals that have agreed to pay their violation, so they're on a board order now, and you'll see that it shows pay. You'll see the violation, you'll see the individual's name. This gets posted under their name out on the website, but these are people that agreed that, yeah, I did violate, and they went ahead and paid, so they don't, you know, they get a settlement amount, it's reasonable, they learned a lesson, and we all move on. But it does require board action, and Mr. Denton signs it afterwards. But I wanna bring one thing to your attention, is there's a back page there that shows the previous violator page. And if you haven't already noticed it, you've got some previous violators this time. So, you know, there comes a time, and we've talked about it before, and I think we've got a couple of candidates right now that probably gonna fall in that category of doing some kind of agreed final order, or maybe just a full-on suspension or something, if they get another one, so. You know, we can do a suspension and a penalty, or a penalty and no suspension. We can do an agreed final order for the next time you violate, maybe you lose the whole deal. There's a combination of tools we can use for these previous violators.
Any questions of any of these specific board orders before I request a motion to approve them and authorize me to sign on behalf of the board? Anyone wish to make a motion for approval and authorizing me to sign?
Make a motion for, well, our chairman to approve and sign for the administrative penalties and board orders. That's about it.
Oh, yep. Second. Motion and a second to approve the board orders as presented and authorizing the chairman to sign on behalf of the board. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? You know, I would point out, Lisa said there's a page, there's actually 5 pages of repeat offenders behind 16 pages of agreed order.
Yeah,
So,
That's what I'm also.
yeah.
we really.
And within that list are some of their names repeated over and over and over.
Yeah.
And you'll see that the fine increases on
Yep.
them. And, there's one on there, I think might get his attention this go around. See.
Next on the agenda is our default final orders, which also are found under tab 13. There are 15 of those.
And these are individuals that, have been noticed and noticed, properly noticed. And, decided to default. And you'll also, I will note that some of these are licensees that have defaulted, and at this stage, I mean, once they default. And, there's no settlement, there's no nothing. And, the license is gonna go on hold. If they have a license.
Board, is there a motion to approve the default orders and authorizing the chairman to sign on behalf of the board?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, okay. Motion carries. And I believe, Lisa, unless you've got something, or Lynn or Dan, or board members, I believe that concludes our regular order of business. We've done our executive session and taken action there, and we're down to public comment. Do we have anyone for public comment? Do you have something else, Lisa, before?
Well, I was gonna say, we did have an individual that wanted to make public comment, but I don't think he was able to join us, was he, Don? And what he wanted to comment about, I'll just tell you. He had concerns about his hours not being approved. And what it was is that his hours were worked prior to his, becoming a registered plumber's apprentice. And so he was looking at trying to do the journeyman, but he didn't have enough. And so he kind of got mixed up in a back and forth deal. And, he was, upset because he hadn't been processed, and he thought he had the right thing in there, and his boss had called and this, that, and the other, and I talked to him this morning, so. But remember, you gotta be a registered apprentice, and that's when your hours start. And it's unfortunate, but that's what it says.
Well, that's where it has to be. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, it has to be, and I know there's some of them that, and I had some other ones not too long ago, they're like, well, so I threw away a whole year. Yeah, go talk to who employed you, because they knew,
So
and I
Lisa,
just feel so sorry for them.
out of curiosity on that right there, so when a guy does that, you have an apprentice. He can prove that he worked for a RMP. He's got pay records. There's no recourse on that RMP for not requiring that apprentice to have gotten that registration prior to, and he's got proof of it.
We can talk about that a little bit, because we're kind of going off of our agenda,
Yes, ma'am.
but it wouldn't be a bad idea to put that conversation on an agenda.
Yes, ma'am.
well, let's make note of that.
Into that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah,
Kind of like, yeah,
well, make
It's-
note of that,
it
Dan, if you will, and
happens.
let's remember the next agenda, we will talk about that. That's,
and
It is kind of sad the guys worked and they didn't get it, but should know.
But the one this morning, he's worked out, he just didn't realize what the process was.
but that's a double-edged sword. If you're gonna go after the RMP, you also have to go after the apprentice for doing plumbing work without a registration. So there's more to it than just nailing the.
But if you
RMP.
think about it, this is full circle on employing people and that sort of stuff that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, that's.
And it may stop some of that.
That is the purpose of what we're talking about, these mandatory big penalties. Hopefully, this will require them to get registration, so they'll get credit for their hours, so. Anything else before we move on to public comment?
That was all we had. I don't think anybody.
Don, nobody online?
We had 3 people register and none of them are online.
Wore them out, huh? Anyone present that had a comment to make? Mr. Botta?
How you doing? Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. John Motta, Senior Director for the ITMO Group. On behalf of ITMO, we appreciate everything that the board and online also, all y'all do for the state of Texas. And just want to offer our services for anything you may need, education wise or code wise, anything we can do to help. Also want to let you know that we do have an ITMO chapter. It's located in Houston for the most part. and extend an invitation, for a future meeting for maybe y'all come out and ours aren't as long as some of these other ones, so, and they're at the Cadillac Bar. Any of you from Houston, I think you knows where it's at, but, yeah, it's got a restaurant too. It's a Mexican restaurant, so. Also, I do want to say that, I know y'all were talking about TDLR. I was, with, the Louisiana Plumbing Board, chairman and, executive director last month, and they had high praise for y'all. That's part of my state over there in Louisiana. They said that we're here a couple months ago,
They did.
Ashley and Mike Joyner, and they had nothing but good things, and actually said some things that they were taking away back. And I know years ago, we had them come here to look at the board. That's what they mirrored their plumbing board after, and they had nothing but high praise for everybody. Lisa, you also, so, yeah, when we had that happen, so, yeah, we had them, and I think we had the state of Minnesota also come down, and they mirrored their board after this board, all the way down to the practical, the dollhouse and everything, so. With that, the last thing I want to do is extend an invitation to the board, to Atmos annual conference. It's not in Texas, unfortunately, but it's in, Palm Springs, California, so any of you, yeah, I hear it's hot. I've never been out there, and I have an issue with going from one hot place to another, so with all that, I appreciate the time.
It's a drive.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's an oven.
Thank you, John.
Uh-huh.
Anyone else have anything to say before we close the meeting? Our next board agenda, in addition to the items we talked about today, we're gonna have those up probably as discussion items again. But Mr. Mata in the public comment said, anything you can do for us. One thing I want to mention that I've talked to Kevin and GW about, I believe that we can, in some shape, form, or fashion, provide to plumbers to ask Kevin code information for IPC and UPC. There are some things that we've got to work out, but I am hopeful that IPC and UPC will allow us, when we get code questions, to link to your, if you've got them on site, to link to you. And we hope that a plumber can carry around in his pocket the IPC and UPC code.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, after you say, Marshall, you want to say on behalf of us, what we do right now, as far as that goes.
Okay.
So.
But that's gonna be in the works, and Kevin has already done this for GW. Where he can actually go to Ask Kevin or go to the app and ask a question, it'll give you the code requirements for it. And I think that's gonna be a tremendous asset or help to the plumbers in the field. To carry around in their pocket, the codes, both codes. We're gonna have to put some disclaimers on it. Because as everyone in this room knows, that cities and municipalities can adjust them and modify them. But at least they'll have the basic code requirements. And then just a warning, but that's gonna be in the works too. So we might do some discussion about that at our next board meeting also. We had talked about maybe having it at our other location. If we don't have it, or we're not ready to do it at our new location, we might consider, not in addition to building a new plumbing center in Abilene, they're also rebuilding a new plumbing center in Waco for TSTC. So what we might do, if it works out and it's available, we might do it in Waco and tour their new plumbing building and their new plumbing training thing. So one of the two places, and I would suspect it would be hopefully early to mid-September when we next meet, so.
It's really nice being 20 minutes away from my house.
Why do you think we selected that location?
That's why.
Anyone else have anything that comes to mind?
Just Kevin, the iPads work great. That's.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Great there.
Okay. All right, well, if no further business, we'll call the meeting adjourned at 1:40.